Well, welcome everybody. I'm here with the founder and CEO of HealthSchema, Jackie Iverson. Jackie, you've been building an exciting platform that I think is just going to be remarkable for patients to be able to access information, provide that to other healthcare providers. And why don't you just tell the investor audience that's going to be listening into this video and would have an interest in potentially investing in your company, how this all began? I mean, you've got a deep background in technology with HP, and I certainly don't want to steal your thunder, Jackie, but take us to the genesis of how HealthSchema started.
Yeah. Long story short, so I've had a number of friends and family members who actually succumbed of treatments as a result of some of the disease they were treating, but they did not die of their diseases. They died of side effects from medication. And I thought that was not normal, right? And there were some other numbers of death that I thought could have been prevented if patients could have had the opportunity to advocate for themselves and make decisions about their healthcare journey in partnership with their care providers, especially during COVID, right? For example, some people I think were released from the hospital without being told that they needed to monitor their oxygen level. And
Mm,
people don't really have a medical background. If they don't have a medical background, they may not know that. And I
sure.
think doctors and nurses were overwhelmed at that time. So they failed to inform the patient, and the patient didn't know. And I think a number of people ended up dying of organ failure as a result of having low oxygen levels, something I think could have been prevented if they had an application that told them that, you know.
Wow. And if I understand some of the parameters around your platform, it's very much like a health wallet where I can provide detailed information of who I am, my genomic makeup, so I understand and my doctors understand some of the problems that a specific medication could affect me. What is that like?
Yeah. So Schema is a digital health wallet that allows every user, like you and me, to curate their digital health information. So they have everything in one place. It could be information from their lab, from their medical devices, perhaps prescriptions, as well as medical visits, etc. Anything that's related to their medical records, vaccination. And so this allows them to have a 360 degrees view of their healthcare and help them personalize it, right? Because as you know, personalized medicine is a advancing field. However, it's taking a long time for larger hospitals and organizations to implement that into the healthcare workflow because it's complex. And
Hmm.
it's costly. And a lot of times after hospitals roll it out, they fail to monetize quickly on it. So they end up killing the program. Most of the people I talk to are not aware of personalized medicine, even though it's a field that's been advancing in the last 20 years. Personalized medicine really aims at preventing and treating patients based on their genetics and other information that are environmental, perhaps epigenetic, so that it's very tailored to the person, right? So, because it's so complex to implement that at a hospital level, and I have, as you mentioned, 30 years of experience working in high tech, I thought that with today's prominent digital experience and data availability and technology, we could create a wallet to enable users to hold that data and also create a marketplace down the road, by the way, as a secondary endeavor with this digital health wallet is to help people participate in clinical trial and make that data pool a lot more diverse. Because right now it's still very much available for the elite and only a certain ethnicity. So it doesn't really advance science, right? We need to understand everybody's genetic makeup and background. And so this wallet aims at collecting all that information, including environmental, so that people can advocate for themselves. Because I believe that nobody is going to advocate for yourself better than yourself. And people I talk to are not aware of personalized medicine. You know, I know a lot of people who are getting treatments for cancer, and I always tell them, hey, did you test for this genetic variant because it may affect how you metabolize chemotherapy or the dosage that you're being given, or having an allergic reaction that may cause problems or death, right? So things like that, people are not even aware of, because right now we're still being treated as a one size fits all, and it's not possible because we are all have genetic variants. And then, you know, as a result, I think there are about 1.3 million hospital emergency visits a year due to adverse drug reactions. So if you go to a website called fourthcause.org, it gives you all the statistics about how drug adverse reactions affect everybody. So this app aims at preventing that, helping you determine your genetics. So it knows everything about you, right? So it will give you alerts if you have high blood pressure, if it detects you have low oxygen. So it's a very well-rounded, a 360 to basically create some sort of digital a twin of yourself so that you can react to it, right? So if you notice that a doctor's prescribing something that you may be allergic to, the app will tell you, instead of just going along with it, you may be able to advocate for yourself with the pharmacist or the doctor and saying, hey, do you know I have this allergic reaction? So they may be, because they have the data also, they'll be able to act upon it, right?
It's absolutely incredible because, I think about experiences that we've had in our own household, allergic reactions to medications and things of that nature that probably with your platform and your app, we would have known that ahead of time to avoid all that. And then you have the other rare cases where, we've had to deal with on our side seizures or anaphylactic shock and things of that nature. But thankfully, everybody's alive in our household. Not so much the case when I discovered from you, and this was just so disheartening that the fourth leading cause of death in patients can be just an adverse reaction to medications.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely remarkable that your platform can understand the genomic makeup of a patient and then determine if a doctor is prescribing something, is this the best course of action or therapeutic remedy for whatever it is that that doctor is prescribing? So that is absolutely remarkable, and my hat's off to you. And I love how you're democratizing this, right? Where it's not for any elite social classes or ethnicity or anything like that. But candidly, speak to the investor ear that would say, well, is this going to become intrusive with people's data? Are they going to want to be sharing with everybody, or having some type of site that is hosting all this data about their genomic makeup and, HIPAA concerns and all those things? How would you address that to an investor?
Yeah. So, you know, we don't want to force anything to anybody. So they're in control of how much data they want to collect and how much data they want to share, what data they share, and who they want to share with. The
Mhm.
platform we selected is based on blockchain, which is very secure, right?
Mhm.
And we have ways to help users determine who will have access, and they can track all that and report it so they even know by the end of the month who they share the data with. So it's very secure, and we'll continue to test that, right? But for now, as we know, it's the most secure platform. And then there's also going to be some user education along the way, because that's important. We're really changing the ecosystem of healthcare,
Yeah.
by making it available to everybody, right? But everybody doesn't have digital skills, perhaps. So we'll also implement ways to make sure that it's easy for people to give commands and understand that, right? So There are a lot of things we want to test, but that is our number one goal is to make it secure and safe. And again, creating this environment where people can really have the freedom to collect what they want to collect, what's important to them, because it's about your own healthcare journey. Maybe you're not diabetic. Why would you care about collecting, data about your glucose level? So you make that decision. And then you also will make the decision of how you want to participate by even donating your data anonymously to clinical research, or you can also just monetize on it, right? That was my whole goal, to make this platform also become a marketplace so that people have the freedom, and companies, pharmaceuticals are looking for specific people with certain maybe genetic makeup or geographical availability or whatnot, whatever that criteria is, it will be able to open up the pool for a clinical trial. Because right now it seems like it's recurring the same type of data all the time. And I don't think it represents the broad population well enough.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I really don't think it does either. But for the layperson listening in that is in the health tech space for investing, but doesn't really understand about the genomic makeup of the human body and how it can respond to certain things like that, talk to me about that real problem that you're solving, because the number four, as we were just sharing earlier, the number four cause of death with these patients, that just continues to blow my mind, adverse reactions. So what happens in these scenarios? Do they just get shocked and discovered, oh my goodness, this person is allergic to this, or the medicine that they were using had an adverse reaction and we were unaware that they were taking this or something? I mean, it just seems mind-blowing to me with the technology that we have at our fingertips, the information that physicians have about us. How is this happening, Jackie?
I think physicians, they are still doing their best. I think they are just overworked because they have so many patients to take care of. And we're in a transition where traditional medicine has just been going on where it's one size fits all, and a lot of it is trial and error. But in
Mhm.
the digital era, I think the new generation of doctors are starting to be trained on how to use tools like AI to make clinical decision support, decisions. So they have that data available, and it's more and more implemented. But like I mentioned to you, it's slow in adoption because we have over 6,000 hospitals in the United States, and large organizations, it's really difficult to implement change. So for me, I just wanted to close the gap. I'm not trying to replace how hospitals are conducting business or whatnot. I'm just trying to close the gap and save lives while everybody ramps up. And I think it's great because, I mentioned to you one time is I have this friend who is deathly allergic to iodine.
Hmm.
And she didn't have any data. She just had that knowledge based on experience, right?
Yes.
And so when she was in an emergency situation, first thing she told the nurse was, I'm allergic to iodine. Please don't give me any IV. And the nurse told her, well, we'll just give you Benadryl. You'll be fine. Without realizing that it is actually a very severe allergic reaction. But she didn't have the data to back her claim. And I think a lot of times medical people, because they're being rushed or in a hurry or wanted to take care of multiple things at the same time, they tend not to take the time to really process what it means for that particular person because there's so many they have to take care of, right? So, but if you have that data to advocate for yourself, and this is what it's about, so you can advocate for yourself. And maybe in that situation, my friend would have shown the nurse, hey, look at the last event that took place. And so it adds credibility as well when you
Yeah.
advocate for yourself. Because a lot of times doctors will say, well, what do you know? I
Yeah.
went to school for a number of years on this, and I'm a doctor, so why are you going to tell me how to do my job? It's not
Yeah.
about that. It's about supporting the doctor to make the right decision because you know yourself, because you have the data to back up to do that. And then, in psychiatric care, there's also a problem where, people end up committing suicide because it's trial and error in the prescribed medicine for that psychiatric care. And it takes a year, and so trial and error. If it didn't work, they switch it. And it's like sometimes people are so depressed or have mental illness and they cannot wait that long. But if you can target the treatment and know that certain genetic makeup will react better and have more efficiency with certain medicine, then you go straight to it. You don't have to do a trial and error. And I think and more practices are doing that. There are a lot of consultants, right? But again, the problem is um, how do you choose the doctor that's going to do that? So instead, why don't you bring that data to your doctor and help them make that decision on your behalf, and you get to participate as well, which you didn't have the luxury if you didn't have that data, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I know, Jackie, you want to share some slides here. Why don't you walk the investor that's going to be looking at these slides of the details that you're providing? Because I think it really speaks volumes in what you're building here. And again, if you're just joining, there's been a link that's been popping up there to get more details on this exciting investment. Jackie Iverson, the founder of HealthSchema, remarkable platform. I think it's going to revolutionize the way people engage with their healthcare professionals. But take it away, Jackie, and just give us some perspective on what we're looking at here.
Yeah, thanks, Izzy. So, there are several phases because there are so many features in this app. It's supposed to paint a 360 of your health. So the first, the baseline, the founding information about your health is for you to curate this health information. So you may already have information in a PDF for like the vaccination history or anything that your doctors provided digitally on my chart, for example,
Mhm.
any doctor visits that you may have taken, been part of, mammograms or whatnot. So all that information could be really consolidated on this digital health wallet platform. And then we have, manual information they can upload and also be able to get information from medical devices, to really load that information into this platform. And the platform,
Yeah, the wearables such as an Apple Watch, the
yeah,
Auras, world, Samsung
anything.
devices,
Yeah,
that can
right.
integrate with your platform.
As long as the application has a what we call API connection, we
Yeah.
can put it on the platform and it can collect that data for you. And then we'll create ways to view that data. Like, and I'll explain into more details what it means. But basically, this platform is a depository that holds all that information. And then we are developing some applications that can be used through a desktop computer or mobile app. So both Apple and Android can have this application. The application is really the remote control that controls the movement of the data within the platform. If you want to share it, if you want to monetize on it, if you want to, move the data from one folder to another. So it really serves as a remote control, if you will, right? But the data
Yeah.
sits on this safe platform, and it can be controlled from these applications.
Well, talk
Um,
to me about the digital twinning because that's becoming so much more in vogue. And I think the
yeah,
exciting thing about that, if I'm understanding what your platform can do correctly, if I understand that correctly, if I take a digital twin of myself and for example, in my son's particular case, one of my sons, he's allergic to Rosefen. And if it understands that and the genomic makeup, and maybe there's something in an antibiotic that it's in that family, and it gets prescribed, my digital twin with testing that first, if you will, I'm assuming it would have some type of response saying, hey, this is very dangerous and give me, red flag. Can you speak to that?
yeah, sure. So it has different features, right? This wallet. So this first baseline is basically the data collection from, lab work, like you said, genetic information. You have to have lab work done. And so the
Or
second phase,
like deeper than like a 23 and Me or any of those
yeah.
type of things, deeper information than that. Okay. Got it.
Yes. I'm told by a lot of the people in the medical field, because I asked them, I said, hey, there's over 40 million people who already have 23andMe data, raw genetic information. Why couldn't they upload it? Is it enough? And the answer from a medical standpoint is it's probably 23andMe, the genetic information is analyzed from your saliva. And I
Mhm.
understand that if it's done from your blood, it's going to be more expansive. The panel is going to be bigger. And so we want to have a bigger panel, as big as possible, because
Sure.
then it can map genetic compatibilities at a broader level. So the
Mhm.
first phase, as I mentioned to you, the foundation is just collecting the data and sharing it. But consecutive phases, which the ones that you'd be interested in is specifically in pharmacogenomics, actually in the third feature here. But if I walk you through all the features of this wallet is not only it collects the data, allows you to share it and curate it, it will have other functionalities like medicine adherence. Like, for example, if somebody, which by the way, did you know that 80% of people do not adhere to their medicine because, I don't know, fear, forgetfulness, or whatever? So
Wow,
you can set
that's
certain
big.
alerts to let you know. And then at the same time, you can also learn over time the tolerance or intolerance of, you not adhering to specific med, right? Like I have my best friend actually had a surgery, and she was given this medicine she is to take, I think, for the rest of her life. And somehow she had some mix up and she could not procure of this prescribed a refill. And she went without it for about 6 weeks. And she learned then that it was about the time that she could handle it. She started having stomach aches and other symptoms that arose from that. So I think medicine adherence is very important to collect the data on tolerance, because maybe for her it was 6 weeks, but maybe for somebody else it's 2 weeks, so you'll know the pattern. If you cannot go without this med more than X number of days or weeks or whatever because something else happens. So this app's going to collect all that data about yourself so you will even know that, right?
Yeah.
And if the doctors are interested, and that's my goal, right, from a commercial strategy standpoint, the doctor could also get alerts. Hey, it looks like your patient has not been taking this medicine for a long
Wow.
time. It could be a life or death situation. Maybe call them and check up on them or whatever, however they want to conduct that, right? So, but having that information available is very useful as well. Same as biometrics and alerts, right? Just like I mentioned to you earlier about oxygen.
Yeah.
If you know that your oxygen level is supposed to be, in the 93 or so percent, but then all of a sudden you go to 87 for whatever reason, you have a cold or whatever, um, then it's an alert, like, oh, maybe you should check in to see maybe you need oxygen supplement, a tank to help you temporarily or something like that. And then I think everybody loves this feature about your genetics. So if you can do a test, and then there's a lot of information out there about pharmacogenomics, which is how drug interacts with your genetics. But also, I think there are some other components in there. For example, what we call epigenetics, which are like, say, environmental. So, say down the road. So, I always hear, sometimes people in certain areas start to develop a certain type of cancer, for example. So if
Sure.
you have that information, your genetics, and say you live within the radius of, well, I don't know, 10 miles of all the people who have the same type of cancer, that's also data you could provide to maybe researchers to say, hey, it
Sure.
looks like this area. So it really accelerates research too, for you to collect all that data about yourself, because you can contribute for the greater good as well, and safely without disclosing your identity, but just your genetic information. Nobody will know who it is because there are
Yeah.
so many variations, right?
Yeah, and those hot spots, as they call them, it's real important data. I mean, there's a lot of things in the world that people just begin to recognize, hey, my area has a lot of breast cancer,
Yeah.
skin cancer, whatever it might be. So that's remarkable that you're able to do that. And I know you're going to be pulling up some other slides here that you wanted to share. As you jump to that again, if you're watching that link that's come across, we'll provide further details on the offering that right now Jackie has for raising this capital. It's a really exciting platform that you've been building, Jackie, and I think it's going to be remarkable. So why don't you take us to the next slide that you wanted to show, but go ahead and click on the link if you've been watching that come by and schedule some time with me where I could provide some details and potentially get you on a call with the founder and CEO, Jackie Iverson of HealthSchema. What are we looking at here, Jackie?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the commercial strategy of how we're going to monetize on this platform and application. So I'm aiming at touching every layer, right? So the patient, so everybody. So that's why it's at the bottom of the pyramid. There's
Mhm.
300 million people in the US, but I mean, less people will have the app. You could also have the app to curate your family that are minors. Um, so.
That's a
You
really interesting point because there has been some, and I don't know how much truth there is to it, I don't know that social media is all that transparent, but you hear these things about vaccines and vaccinating your kids and things like that, and that it can actually change I guess the genomic makeup of a child as they grow older. I don't know how much truth there is to that. There are arguments on both sides, but I suppose if you have some data from when they're firstborn and toddlers and things like that, and then post-vaccination, it shouldn't really change, right? Their genomic makeup, if in fact what I'm understanding is true. But if it does, then I guess that could be some red flags for concerns for things that people are putting in their body when it comes to the pharmacological therapeutics that physicians will prescribe. So that is remarkable to just be able to have that information. But sorry to interrupt you there. I was just thinking about that. Take us through the commercial
Yeah.
strategy here.
Yeah, and actually adding to the point you're making as well is, so there's so much we don't know that probably could be accelerated, but also for rare diseases. So right now, I think it's an odyssey for the average person to be diagnosed with a rare disease by, I think, about 6 years. Trial and error again, right? So if they have all their data, they can hook into some platforms that already exist nowadays that can reduce that diagnostic time to about 6 weeks. So wouldn't that be remarkable to be able to accelerate that? And by the way, when they go through getting diagnosed for rare disease, they see about 16 different specialists, right? Over a span of about 6 years in average. That's in average. I've heard different stories. And the truth is, collectively, there are more rare diseases than common diseases. If you look at rare disease as a collective.
Mhm.
So, I think if they could collect their data upfront like this and know so much about themselves, it would accelerate that diagnosis and also research for that specific disease. So the patient they would buy this application to get access to curate and donate and monetize and market their health. And then the next level is we would want to partner with all the hospitals and healthcare providers, as well as medical device manufacturers, pharmaceuticals, to be part of this platform because then they can make their application available for users to choose from, right? So I'm just creating an ecosystem. So they also would pay to be part of this network, if you will.
Sure.
Then so that also patients could share data to them, with them, or whatnot. So if they're part of the ecosystem, they also pay this yearly subscription fee. And then at a higher level, I think electronic health record providers, which I mean, right now there's less than 10 major ones, could also be part of this ecosystem so they can collect that data from the user. Like, for example, I always laugh that, we are so stickler about HIPAA, the Healthcare Privacy Act for collecting healthcare data, but
Yeah.
when you go to see a doctor and you fill out all these forms, you pass it on to the receptionist that read your information, who passed it on to whoever. And, heaven forbids if you live in a small town, you went to school with the same
Yeah.
person that checked you in. So I don't think it's that private.
Well,
But if
I
we,
know it. I mean, I've sat there in the lobby waiting area there in the chairs, and I'm within earshot of these people saying, "Oh yeah, and this and you are you still this insurance or that insurance?" And then so that you're here today for this, and it's just like I can hear everything.
yeah,
So
exactly. So my
even
goal,
with being in the emergency room because my kids are involved with a lot of different sports, and unfortunately we've had frequent flyer miles at the emergency room. So sitting there in the lobby, people
yes,
come, you hear all this. it's
yeah,
it's
you're right.
absolutely right, and all you do is just transfer the data in the palm of your hand and they don't have to
Yeah.
discuss it out loud.
It's
Yeah.
very uncomfortable sometimes, right? So I think the whole point I'm making by creating this ecosystem is that you would share directly straight to whatever you need to share straight to the healthcare provider's electronic health record. So I think people complain also about having to fill out intake form every time they go see a doctor, even if it's the same provider, right? But what
Well,
if you could
if people
share
are willing
that?
to pay, if people are willing to pay for storing photographs, right, on their phone or files, certainly, just with the metrics and the KPIs that you've been developing, and it's exciting. And again, click on the link to schedule some time where we can answer some questions. Again, potentially get you on a call with founder and CEO Jackie Iverson, run through the financials and the go-to-market strategy and what you're doing with the use of proceeds. I think it's absolutely remarkable. But when you look at that and you take that all into perspective, this could be absolutely explosive when you think about you were mentioning there's 300 million people in the United States, and I appreciate the fact that you're not considering that every single person is going to have this app. But obviously, with a small percentage of that paying some type of monthly or annual recurring revenue, you can see how this extrapolates and turns into something absolutely extraordinary and very, very profitable. So, Jackie, why don't you wrap us up with your final thoughts on what you want investors to know about this and where you are with all this and where this could go over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yes, so I think that everybody I talk to about this application is very excited about it because they see the need. All right. And they always ask me, like, how come nobody's thought about this before? And the answer is, I think scientific doctors or scientists or doctors are not necessarily technologists, and technologists are not necessarily doctors. I just happen to be a technologist, by trade, but I'm so interested in personalized medicine. I have researched it at great length, and so and then I know I have networked with many people who can guide me through this whole process anyways, and I have a very big understanding of what it takes to make this tool available and useful to people. So I just want to change up the ecosystem for healthcare and allow every user to be able to advocate for themselves so that we can save our own lives and lives of people we love. But also, this endeavor, it hits so many birds with one stone, like I mentioned to you. But I think one of the last thing that I want to mention that it will change also is in the last 30 years, liability insurance for the healthcare professionals have only been rising. And to
Yep.
the point where a lot of doctors don't want to be doctors anymore because they think, well, what's the point? I'm going to have to
Yeah.
pay so much in liability insurance. And we keep on getting lawsuits because of, maybe drug adverse reactions that cause death, unfortunately,
Yeah.
or mishaps. And so this could totally really stabilize the cost of liability insurance over time because hopefully people will be able to advocate for themselves and remedy some situations that could be deathly or detrimental to their health. And so as a result, it's not gonna, it's gonna decrease the instances perhaps of malpractice insurance because maybe things were overlooked before. But now, because we have all that data to advocate for ourselves, it would stabilize that over time as well.
That is a major golden nugget you just shared there, because when you think about what this opportunity does, checks all the boxes. You're democratizing the access to healthcare information, being able to help with where so many people have been against big pharma, if you will. But now you can have this information in the palm of your hands and say, well, hey, this is probably not going to be a fit for me because of my genomic makeup. And then on top of that, being able to save lives. This platform is not just about making money. This platform is saving lives, helping the healthcare industry, democratizing that for everybody, accessibility. It just checks all the boxes. I'm incredibly impressed, and I believe the investor audience will be as well. My hat's off to you, Jackie. An amazing platform that you're building. For more details, please click on that link that's come up. We'll schedule some time there for sure and potentially get you on a call with founder and CEO of HealthSchema, Jackie Iverson. Jackie, thank you so much for carving out the time. Really looking forward to bringing this to the attention of investors in our network for sure and beyond. But thanks everybody for joining, and we will see you on the next one for sure. Take care, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Bye bye now.
Thanks. Bye.